I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to talk about the different realms over the next 3 weeks. Tonight I'm starting with the Arthurians, which that's really the race that I'm leaning towards. As far as the races themselves go, I'll only be talking about what is currently listed on CamelotUnchained.com. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do have any questions, I'm not gonna do a Q&A at the end. If any questions happen to pop up, I'll keep an eye out for it, and I'll try to copy and paste them so I can answer them. But if nothing pops up before I'm finished, then I'll stay in the chat, but I'm gonna go on and cut the stream early so there's not a bunch of silence. And thank you, Zero, for letting me know. Alright, so first we're just gonna start with the information on the realm itself. I think the general idea portrayed for this realm will be colored by many with the Arthurian legends. Whereas this may follow loosely with the legends, it's likely going to differ a great deal as well. And I honestly really like seeing new takes on old stories. The concept of King Arthur will still follow with his belief in how the nobility of an individual can be directed for the benefit of all. The belief as they believe as a general rule that they are destined to save the world, and they can be a bit obsessive about it. Arthur's strong belief in giving opportunities to those that follow his edicts is part of what started the break in the relationship with his brothers. I can certainly see those that wish to be on the good side, air quotes around that, of the war being drawn to this realm. One thing that will be difficult here is trying to determine what your character will be like, because there are a lot of becoming stories, but there's still not a lot of lore, like a ton of lore. It can be difficult to speculate. Now, I have a basic idea of what I would want my Gargoyle to be like if they are included in the game, which is really also dependent on if there are bards. So we can speculate, but it ends up depending on what CSE puts into the game in the end. For myself, I'm leaning towards her being a traveling musician that is almost entirely focused on her art. I think she'll be difficult to really get to know, but once she considers you to be a friend, she would support you to the end. I think, as odd as it may seem, that she would also be a little on the shy side. But we'll have to see how that plays out if they're actually included in the game. All of this is speculation, and I really won't know anything about her until I can actually roleplay her. But that's just the springboard that I'm going to start with. Now, there are quite a few races that are planned that are posted on the website. We are in the early stages of development though, so it's important to note that we may not see all of these in the game at the beginning. Still, I would like to talk about what's up there right now. The first race I'm going to start with is the Gargoyles, because that's currently my favorite so far. I'm just going to discuss this based on the blurb that's on the website, since not all of the Becoming stories are up right now, or have been updated. I may redo this once everything's been put out there. So Gargoyles are pretty much what you may think. Stone guardians that have come alive. They heal more... they may be more resistant to damage, but they do heal more slowly. They also have a weakness where sound is concerned, which is interesting considering that much of the concept art seems to hint at this race having a bard-like class. And yeah, Mordigal, I do kind of think that they'll end up in. A lot of people seem to like the race. So I think they'll end up in. Of course, as As the website states, this could be a way of understanding how music functions in this world. If we do get both bards and gargoyles, I'm very likely going to play one, and my husband may be a gargoyle as well. The weakness to sound is really interesting, especially when you take into account some of the races within the other realms. Like the Banshee, for example, is probably they're probably not going to get along at all. Well, for multiple reasons. There are many ways that this could be played out, as I've mentioned in the introduction. A gargoyle can try to understand how sound affects them or their fellows. They could hide from it by avoiding as much of the fighting as possible, or even disregard the possible danger and go out about their business like it couldn't possibly destroy them. I'll likely be among the first, but I can't wait to see how other people incorporate this aspect of the race into their RP. The second raid I want to talk about is the Cat-shei. This race is not really that popular overall, but from what I've seen, they're really interesting. They're stronger than one would think when you look at them at first, and smarter than they're likely to be given credit for. They have a good memory, so they would make great scholars, teachers, historians, or the like. And they are also likely to hold a grudge against anyone that interferes with those that the Cat-shei considers to be part of their kin. And I know I'm probably saying this wrong. Most likely they'll take out that grudge by clawing their own eyes out. At least that's what I would do if I were a giant cat monster. They are untrusting of other races, but Arthur managed to break through that barrier and has brought them into the circle. They also seem to be very loyal to those that have found a place within their kin, and they would die for them. Now, again, I've heard a lot of dislike of this race, but I think there's a lot of potential, and I really think that the dislike just comes from cat races in general. Perhaps it's because we see them so often. I don't know. I could see their personalities not being that dissimilar from how I role-played my troll in WoW, being fiercely protective of the ones that they consider to be their quote-unquote people, even if they are from another race, but vicious with anyone that is outside of that circle. Even the innate hatred of races that the Cat-shei have would likely fall among that as well. Well, maybe it is a zero, but honestly, they're a different species. Maybe it's speciest. But if I were to play one of them, most likely she would have a pretty big hatred for one of the enemy races in particular. I played a couple of trolls, and one of them really, really hated humans, and the other one really did not like gnomes. So there is a lot of potential there as well for them to pick a certain race that they just are, maybe they want to wipe out completely. I think there's a lot of potential for the race, and I do hope that if they end up in the game that you give them a fair chance, at least if you're playing Arthurian. Now, what would the Arthurians be like if there weren't humans? Well, for starters, they probably wouldn't be the Arthurians. Anyway, the humans tend to be the least liked in any fantasy game because they are generally the most mundane. They're not the first pick for a lot of people. And while they may not have the strength and resistance of a lot of other races, they are really resourceful. They've managed to stay alive and even excel in some very adverse conditions. These humans are certainly going to be more powerful than we are and have more fantastic abilities or strength. Their RP, I think, will largely be based around whatever class you end up playing with them. You'll have people that are, if they roleplay a warrior, they'll likely roleplay noble or even ignoble knights. Wizards or mages may be reclusive and bookish or outgoing and show-offy or anything else. Humans are often, honestly, the easiest race to get into role-playing in many settings. And I think it can often be the best starting point for people that are testing the water, so to speak. Now, there are the Storm Raiders as well, who are also humans, but they've been altered. They don't really seem to have much of a sense of humor. It is there, but not like it would be with the other races. And they are generally the first ones that would be sent in for battle. They don't really show any sign of fear while they are fighting. And they do have resistances against magic that targets the mind. They don't think a lot of sacrifice because it's part of their culture, and they see no problem with dying for their realm. Now, reading over this, it really puts me in mind of the Qunari from Dragon Age. So I think that could be used kind of like a springboard for RP with them. Very stoic, not showing a lot of emotions, and serving the greater good without question. And though it says they are largely devoid of humor, I think that it could end up falling in line with the very dry sense of humor that borders on sarcasm and trolling. Sten in Dragon Age Origins, for example, is a really good example of this. He is hilarious in my opinion. And I say this because of random conversations that come up while you're speaking with him. One of them was started when he gave a Templar that was guarding the dock to the Mage's Tower cookies. And when the warden asks him where he gets those, he says, there was a child, a fat, slovenly thing, in the last village we passed. I relieved him of these confections. He didn't need them anymore. And when you ask him if he stole cookies from a child, he just said for his own good. So I really think that could be a good starting point to get a base idea on how one of these characters could be. And of course there's going to be a lot of wiggle room within that. Or you may even decide to go a different route, but I think that would be a good place to begin. Now, the last but not least of the races among the Arthurians, and I am probably going to say this wrong, but it's the, I don't even want to say it, the Sturm? I don't know, I just butchered it, I know I did. I'm a little torn on this race. Appearance-wise, they are anthropomorphic dragons. But their wing placement is a little off-putting to me. I'm not saying that they don't have an interesting design, but sorry, my husband's messing with me now. He knows I don't like the butt wings. But the placement of the wings are off-putting to me. I'm not saying that they don't look awesome overall, but if I had done the design, I probably would have put the wings somewhere else, personally. However, I still may end up playing one of them because I absolutely adore dragons. And I know that's such a great reason, isn't it? Not much is really known about them. However, what is known is that they are a matriarchal society. Stop! Sorry about that, but they are a matriarchal society that they have very obvious gender differences, which is fairly obvious from the concept headshots that are on the Camelot Unchained website. While they are graceful, they're not vain. At least most of them aren't. Yeah, I do like how they fold to look like a skirt. I do like that, but the placement overall just isn't really. It wouldn't have been my choice, is all. But I do like them overall, and as I said, I'll probably end up playing one if for no other reason than I really, 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 really love dragons, and if I can play one, why wouldn't I? But I know that's not really a great reason. Now, again, as I was saying, they're not, while they're graceful, they're elegant, they're very lovely, they're not vain. Or most of them aren't anyways. They do believe themselves to be the champions, that they were placed here for that purpose, and battle is sort of a dance for them. So they have an interesting concept I really would like to see more. Now, just off the top of my head from that little bit of information, I could see them being the mightier than thou sorts. And this may not be the case for all of them. It may not even be the case for the majority of them. That's just what comes to mind for me. Like they have something of a champion complex. Which that may or may not be true. That's just what comes to mind right now. I can imagine a lot of talking down their noses, so to speak. But that could make for some really interesting characters. I think if I played one, they would end up being a little bit on the haughty side. Now, that's gonna about wrap it up here. That's all I have for the Arthurian races right now that are currently listed on the website. There may well be changes to the list before the game is released, but I think there's some pretty interesting options right now. And I honestly hope that they all make it in. I mean, I think they're all really interesting and they all have a lot of potential. Even if they don't make it at the start, I hope they eventually end up in the game. If they can't all make it at the start, then I really, 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 really hope the Gargoyles do. I'm not, like, biased for them or anything, but I would really like to see them. Now, I am going to diverge here a little bit while I'm waiting for the questions, if anyone happens to have any. As I said at the beginning, I'm not going to wait around after with this stream live. I'll wait around in the chat room if any questions pop up, but I'm going to go on and cut the feed since there's been lag issues. But what I want to talk about is a Kickstarter that went live today from a company called Endgamer PC. What they're trying to do is offer high-end gaming PCs for less than most other companies are offering them. And they also want to help build a community with the with the gamers. So I think they have some really good goals. I've looked over the PC up on the Kickstarter, and it looks really good. I'm sure that's not going to be the only PC they have, but it's definitely tempting. I will be including a link in the information below, so if you're curious or if you were looking at getting a new PC, go on and check them out. I think it'll be worth it. So I didn't really see any questions come up, so I'm going to go on and end this stream here, but I'm sorry. Someone just linked a picture, so I'm looking at it real quick. I do like that, and that's probably closer to what I would have done with the wings if I'd done the art, but I also like the fact that they are doing different things with the races. So just because it's off-putting to me doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just not my personal preference. But that's a really nice picture, and thank you for sharing that, Mortigal. Alright, so I'm going to go on and end the stream since I'm not seeing any questions. Again, I'll hang around in the chat for a little bit, so if you want to talk to me or if you have any comments you want to make, then I'll hang around. But thank you all for listening. It's been good talking with you all, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you.